The guy never would have imagined that to keep his identity as the Empire's strongest hidden, he'd planned to coast through the royal selection without trying. But this time, he had to win the royal hunt, because what was on the line wasn't just the championship, it was his and his little brother Leonard's right to stay alive. One day, the Emperor suddenly summoned every prince and princess. The meeting had barely started, when the top heirs to the throne were already on the verge of throwing hands. The third prince believed power solved everything. The magic prodigy Sandra immediately fired back, and the room got heated fast. But the Emperor couldn't care less, because in this empire, the throne has always belonged to the strongest. Then, the Emperor announced the return of the long-cancelled Night Hunt Festival. Every prince and princess would be assigned a night order at random. Whoever hunted the most monsters would claim victory, and the grand prize was the position of Imperial Envoy. Sounds like a diplomat, but in reality, it's the fastest way to build influence and political power. Whoever gets that position takes one giant step closer to the throne. For the other royal heirs, it was just another competition. But for the MC and his younger brother Leonard, it was a fight for survival. The third prince controlled the military. Sandra had the entire mage faction behind her. The second prince already had massive political influence. If any one of them became the Imperial Envoy, their power would only keep growing. By then, Leonard, who'd only just started building his own faction, would never have another chance. So this tournament had to be won. The problem was, the MC himself was already the Empire's strongest adventurer. If he got serious, winning would be effortless. But the moment he claimed first place himself, his hidden identity would be exposed instantly. Years of planning would go up in smoke. It's not that he couldn't win, it's that he had to win without anyone realizing it. Just as everyone was trying to figure out a plan, the Adventurers Guild sent an emergency request. A mutated hellhound with 3 heads had invaded the Empire. Several subjugation squads had already been wiped out. Threat level AAA, and there was only one person who could deal with a monster like that, Shiva. So the MC had no choice but to switch over to his main account. When he arrived, ordinary adventurers couldn't even scratch the beast. The MC simply raised one hand and unleashed ancient magic. The next second, an inferno rained from the sky. A massive explosion engulfed the entire valley. The 3-headed hellhound that had driven everyone into despair was erased without leaving a trace. He thought he could leave after finishing the job, but the explosion attracted a night order. Leading them was Erna, captain of the 3rd Night Order, and also the MC's childhood friend. The moment Erna arrived, she realized the monster had already been taken care of. She wanted to investigate, but the MC, still disguised as Shiva, started roasting her non-stop. One sentence later, Erna's forehead was already popping veins, because to her, the title of Guardian of the Royal Capital should belong to her noble family, which had protected the Empire for generations. Shiva, on the other hand, couldn't care less. One simple "I don't care" completely tilted her. The longer they argued, the worse it got. Eventually, they stormed off on bad terms. Meanwhile, behind his mask, the MC was trying not to laugh, because growing up, he'd almost never beaten Erna in anything. Now, using his Shiva identity, he'd finally gotten his revenge, and honestly, it felt even better than defeating the Demon King. Unfortunately, the victory didn't last long. Soon, the Emperor's night assignments arrived at the estate. The MC opened the letter and instantly froze, because the night order assigned to him was Erna's 3rd Night Order. What's even crazier, she'd actually volunteered to join him. Her reason was simple. She was going to personally train the so-called useless prince into this year's champion. The MC's scalp practically went numb, because his biggest goal was staying under the radar, but Erna's biggest goal was making sure everyone noticed him. One was desperately hiding his strength. The other was determined to drag him into the spotlight. The tournament hadn't even started yet, and the civil war was already underway. Erna joined the Night Order at just 11 years old. By 14, she was already its captain. The moment she said, "Training starts now," she dragged the MC straight to horseback lessons. The MC faked being sick, but the butler, Sebastian, made a flawless diagnosis. Classic training avoidance syndrome. Prescription: more exercise. After just one day, the MC's entire body was aching. The next morning, he had to let Fine apply medicine for him. That's when everyone realized the Empire's strongest adventurer had one hilarious weakness. His ancient magic was completely maxed out, but horseback riding, swordsmanship, and modern magic classes, he skipped every chance he got. Without ancient magic, his physical ability was actually worse than an average knight's. Ironically, that weakness gave him the perfect plan. Erna was recognized as the strongest young knight in the entire empire. If her squad won, everyone would naturally assume the credit belonged to her. No one would ever suspect the useless prince had secretly carried the team. So the MC made his decision. His top priority was helping Leonard win the tournament. If Leonard failed, he'd quietly claim the championship under Erna's reputation instead. No matter what, the position of Imperial Envoy could never fall into the hands of the other 3 contenders. Unfortunately, Erna clearly had no intention of letting him slack off. The moment she heard him say, "I'm finally okay," she immediately replied, "Breaks over." Back to training. For the first time in his life, the man who could solo a AAA monster honestly felt he'd rather fight another hellhound than survive Erna's training. Late that night, after finally escaping her brutal boot camp, the MC quietly made his way to an underground chamber. Waiting for him there was his grandfather, still researching the mysteries of ancient magic.